Hello there. Welcome back to the Senate Podcast. Today, we're on episode number 49. One away from the big old 50. Tony. I'm joined by, like usual, my co-host, Tony Quinn. We're almost there, man. One more down. We're there. Can't believe it. So what's crazy is we're actually way above 50 episodes. But I don't label all of them episodes. Some of them I just label like a regular YouTube video or like whatever. So I guess we're at 49 proper episodes. By proper, I mean, it has a topic, it has an intro. We do our thing. You know what I mean? So, man, I'm excited for episode 50. Not because we're doing anything super crazy, but just because it's a milestone. And we're probably in the top percentile of successful podcasts because many podcasts don't reach 50. A lot of podcasts don't reach, 10, but we're at 50, Tony. So this is going to be a little bit more of an interesting podcast, just talking about what it is like to do a podcast, what it's like to have a successful podcast, looking back about, where we started versus where we're at now. And kind of just having some fun. So, what's it feel like to be a part of a successful podcast? And the only reason I'm saying that it's not successful, but we're at 50 episodes, so I feel like I get to say that now.
Like you said, our podcast is pretty small. Although, like, sometimes we'll have like a episode or a few or like a clip or something that like pops off relatively well. But like,
yeah.
So I guess there's a freedom with like not being like really big because like I don't have to worry about like a flood of like angry comments. Like if I say that I really like Luke Skywalker's arc in The Last Jedi, like maybe we'll have like 3 people that'll be like, "Oh, you're an idiot," whatever. But like it's not going to be like
3,
like hundreds. And then like I like talking about stuff that I like. I like to voice opinions, whether it's like a positive opinion or a hot take. So a podcast is a fun way to unleash that side of my brain. That just at the end of the day kind of likes controversy. Likes to kind of stoke the fires a little bit and like analyze stuff too. So it's pretty, I wouldn't say therapeutic, but it's pretty helpful to keep me from talking to myself even more than I do because I get to talk to you. So that's all.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you some questions, and we can kind of just go back and forth on these questions about just podcasting and our experience, and then we can kind of go through what it's been like specifically creating this show. So, because you got podcast as like a general idea of getting in front of a microphone and talking about something. That's the essence of what a podcast is, And it's been a lot of fun for me. I've never really been the kind of person to get in front of a camera. I'm better behind the camera. So it was hard for me to start this, and I have a story with that. But in terms of a creative outlet, that is podcasting, how has that been for you? Because you're a creative person. We've talked a little bit about how you're in some plays. You want to start almost like a blog or we talked about some ideas of a creative outlet of sorts to just be an outlet for your ideas for whether it's video games or movies or acting or whatever the case may be, art, whatever. It's just a way to express yourself. So in terms of podcasting with us, one where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, games and stuff, what has been the most satisfying part of being able to talk about the things you love in front of a microphone?
Satisfying.
I have one. I'll give you a little hint. So one of the first episodes we've ever done where you had the biggest part in creating was episode 11, why video games are valuable works of art and how they inspire us. So I kind of almost had an idea of doing that episode again today because it's National Video Game Day. So I was thinking about kind of talking about video games. We already did that episode. And I think that was the first episode you were really like, hey, I want to do an episode. I have an idea for it. And we did it. So what was it like being able to get your thoughts and ideas in your head out there in front of, whatever audience is listening?
Well, I don't feel like I can totally tell you because I've like spoken about this before, but I'm not the biggest fan of that episode.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I didn't have my thoughts together maybe as much as I should have. Like I feel like there was a fair chunk of it where we were kind of like rambling and like talking in circles. But I mean, that was the first episode I hosted, so like that's I feel like that's my fault, because I feel like you held up your end, but I kind of lacked in my end a little bit. But it was still fun though because like I did like a fair bit of research, like watching like certain YouTube videos I talked about, like things that people were saying. I looked up a few articles, I found out about that infamous Roger Ebert quote, which, again, I'm not bashing Roger Ebert. He's the most legendary film critic ever. That guy loved movies more than anybody on the planet that I can think of, aside from like obviously famous filmmakers. But all that I was saying was like, yeah, like me as someone who really loves video games and other people who really love video games take issue with him saying that they could never be art because he was looking at it through like a narrow lens, but I mean, and like that was also interesting too because like he was, older. So like when he was growing up, video games weren't like, I don't feel like games like aside from like older Final Fantasies like on the SNES and stuff, like they didn't really strive to be bigger than they were that much. It wasn't until I would say like Final Fantasy 6 a lot, which was on the NES, but like Final Fantasy 7 was it. It seems like from what I know about like the history of gaming, that was when like it just blew up, and even people who didn't really play games were like, video games can be freaking cool because here's this game and it's on 3 discs and it tells this big story and you travel this world and watch these incredible cutscenes, and like that was a pioneer in terms of like animating cutscenes and all that stuff. So it was, that episode was fun because like it made me not be like narrow-minded where it's like I'm gonna tell you why all of these people are dumb, and like it's just more like I get why some people think this, but here's me and Caleb talking about why we don't think video games are really that much less or more art than a movie, a play, a book, anything. Like it's all about like how you look at it and how it makes you feel. So
that was a great episode.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, and I'm going to make you a little bit mad right now. So there's actually 2 episodes I want to do a remaster of. So basically where we
what are we, Naughty Dog?
Yeah, so we're just going to re-record the episode essentially and do it again. So that's one of them. I want to re-record that and just basically the same topic, but just do it better.
Yeah.
And the other one is episode 15, our first in our Star Wars retrospectives, The Phantom Menace. I would like to do that again, just because that's our only one without video. Like, and the
really?
dynamic is we started video on episode 16, Attack of the Clones retrospective. So our very first one, The Phantom Menace. You know what? We could probably see each other, but I wasn't actually recording the video because I think that's the case for every single one of these. So we didn't actually upload video until episode 16, which is crazy. So because I set small milestones. I'm going to ask you about hosting in a second, but I set small milestone goals for the podcast. So my first one was, let's just make it good. And we weren't even able to like get a quality sound out until episode 2. So that's why we don't have an episode 1. I had a friend who wanted to produce the podcast. So I was like, all right, if you're going to produce the podcast, produce the podcast. And it was really bad. So it was really bad. So I was like, okay, we're not going to put out an episode 1, but we already did it. We recorded it, everything. I was like, we're just going to start with episode 2. Whatever.
Yeah, I could say some of those early episodes were like,
they're rough.
I had fun with them, but like I know there was one that we did where it was just me and him, and for a lot of reasons, like we got done with it and I was like, oh God. That was
So yeah, the earlier ones were just podcasts. There was no video. I didn't do the thumbnail. It was literally just a typical podcast. And I love podcasting. So I was like, that's cool. We can just put it out in MP3 just as a podcast. So that was a lot of fun. So that's why we have an episode 2. We start with episode 2 because episode 1 is deleted. There's no episode 1. So episode 2. For the first 4 episodes or 5 episodes, we actually had a different person on. So my first episode was with somebody, and then episode 3, which is technically the second actual episode, you were on. And then I had somebody else on episode 4, I had someone else on episode 5, and I had someone else on episode 6, something like that. So I had a rotating chair for like the first 5 episodes. So one of my favorites was actually the one we did, episode 3. And I could just tell everyone else was like excited about the idea of a podcast, but didn't really care about podcasting. So then me and you started to do it more. And we got all the way up to episode 11, which was the first time you wanted to host. So what was it like hosting? Because I did 10 episodes myself, and then you, I guess, got the courage to host. So what was it like hosting the first time you did it versus the few times you've done it since then? Because you've definitely evolved.
Yeah, I'm glad you put that specific caveat in there because I was going to mention that. Yeah, so the first time, I mean, I didn't know like really how to go about it. You know, I'm not really, I'm a pretty like shy, low-key person. Like I can be brave and do certain things, but like it takes like, I have to like, you know, in the first, it's like in the first Deadpool movie when he spots the black van for the guys that he's trying to track down so he can find the main villain. He's like, he like stands up, and before he jumps down to go after him, he's like, maximum effort. And it's like, that's me when I do literally anything. I'm like, okay, I have to like, you know, charge my battery to 100%, and then I can kind of do this for a little bit. So I didn't feel like I really found my groove in that one. I feel like I was like probably stumbling and like not really sure how to flow stuff. But like, you know, like if you check out like the Star Wars sequel trilogy retrospective, you know, I feel like that's like a far cry. Like I was more in my groove, and I feel like I had a pretty good flow. I felt like I did a pretty good job, because like one of the daunting things about stuff like that was like, okay, how much stuff do I want to stop and talk about without making the episode like 10 hours? You know what I mean? I feel like I found a pretty good balance. And like it helps too. Like as I've like, you know, started to act in plays, I kind of, if you notice, like as I like when I hosted prior to being in my first play and then after,
yeah,
I had difference. Like my presence and stuff was like better and kind of more confident and stuff. That's because to an extent I'm putting on a persona. Like I'm still myself, but it's a more like, you know how it is like when you're like hanging out with your friends and stuff, or like certain family members, like you're acting like yourself, but you're like more animated, more lively. And then when you're by yourself, you know, you're more like kind of chill and low key. Like how I am right now is how I actually am, But now, like, when I host an episode, it's like, okay, I'm gonna crank it up a little bit, crank up the hot takes, crank up the wit, the sarcasm, because obviously I don't want the episode to be boring for people to listen to. So, like, if I, kind of switch up myself a little bit in a way that hopefully will play better, that always helps too, because it's like I technically wasn't fully myself. So, anything that I say that annoys people, it's like, well, technically that wasn't me, actually. That was my hosting character. So that's a kind of fun way to look at it as an actor.
You have to be a little animated. And what's fun about a podcast is you can be animated like an actor, but then you can portray like your real self still. Yeah. Because in acting, you got to play a character, but you don't have to play character podcasting, but you can be an animated version of what you would be like, unlike what you would be in your everyday life. So you can be a little bit more, animated is a great word for it.
Yeah, like anytime where like I like talk about something serious, that's basically breaking the character.
Yeah. So that's all the way up to episode 11. Now, I've said this multiple times on the podcast. I believe that this podcast truly started on episode 13. And episode 13 is the game studios we would acquire if we owned a publisher.
Yeah.
That's where I think we really, like, if you go back and listen to every episode before that, it doesn't resemble the show now. But starting on episode 13, that's what everything from there to now is what the show kind of is. So we found our little niche. I don't care if you pronounce it differently. I pronounce it niche. Our little niche in episode 13. So in episode 13, we actually had Andy on, and I talked to Andy recently, and he's kind of he doesn't really do podcasting, but he was an integral part of getting this podcast started. And I think me, you, and Andy did it. We did a 3-person podcast on that. And that's one of our seminal episodes. So I think really, if we're going to go through and just highlight some of our best episodes. The first seminal episode, episode 13, that's where really everything began. All right. That is my kind of just a pick for a seminal episode. What episode have we done that really stands out to you? It could be any of them.
I mean, that one would have been my first choice. Yeah. I feel like that was like
definitely
because like prior episodes, I would always be kind of like not super confident, but like I feel like that one I was like in my element. I had my notes ready, my thoughts gathered. I was ready to pitch my ideas that'll probably never happen. But I would say seminal. Fun, yeah. I would say seminal for me, honestly. I've talked about it to you a few times, but the one we did in your living room, which is currently the only one. Like I listened to that like a few months ago, just
it's good
because I wanted to see if it held up, and I was like, dude, like I don't know what I had to eat that day, what I had to drink, how much sleep I had the night before. Maybe I was listening to some great music on the drive there. Maybe I caught some really good vitamin D from the sun shining through my windshield. But like I was like coherent in a way that I don't feel like I am that much. I was like articulate, and I don't know, everything just like clicked. I think it was partially like I mentioned the next one we did was with Devontae. We talked about the PlayStation Showcase or whatever, and like
he'll be back on next episode.
Yeah, sweet. I mentioned that I was like, it's kind of a paradox because I'm an introverted person, but I'm also kind of extroverted in the sense that like generally I don't like being around people, but it's the case with most people. I think like if you have those certain people that like you can be yourself around and just let loose, I'd rather be with them in person than like over a Zoom call or talk on the phone, because you get that energy from them and absorb that, and then you read it. So like I feel like that live episode was like
it was special.
like the atmosphere was like something that I never had, and it let me like let loose in a way that I can't do as much when I'm just sitting behind my monitor with my webcam,
It's literally not something that you can replicate unless you're in that environment again. So I would love to do something like that again. I didn't plan that specific setup for episode 50 because I think episode 50, just even though it's a milestone, having just a normal episode with a fun topic and just us doing our thing is what we should do for that milestone. But that is of course, that's a great pick. That is by far, I think, our best, just because it's so unique. I put so much time into editing it. It's awesome in so many ways. So great pick. Okay, another great one. Our magnum opus, Revenge of the Sith retrospective.
Oh, that was fun. That was
I had
really
to split
fun.
this thing up into 3 parts because it's like 4 hours long.
That one episode had its own trilogy.
Literally, just that one, had its own trilogy. It's awesome. It by far has our most views. It's our most viewed episode out of any of them. People love Revenge of the Sith. I think people like hearing us talk about Revenge of the Sith because we did a really good job talking about Revenge of the Sith. I mean, we did our research. We took our time. It was really, like, we put work into that episode. A lot of episodes we don't put, when we put some work into it, like, hey, this is our topic, let's think about it. But this one, we took notes, we did our research, we put the time into it. It was, in terms of quality, I think it's our most high quality work ever, and we might never top it in terms of quality. So I think that along with the live show, those two are just, you're not really going to find anything like that elsewhere. You know what I mean? I've listened to Revenge of the Sith retrospectives. Ours is really good. I can't really say that about any other retrospective except maybe The Rise of Skywalker, because we actually do some insane analysis in that one. But Revenge of the Sith is special. That's such a great seminal episode.
Yeah, that was, in a way, that was like a really resonant one for me because like I know, like, I mention it in the episode in more detail than I will now, but I remember seeing episode 1 and 2 as a kid, but like I just remember like small bits. Like I didn't remember like really like watching the whole movie and like what really even happened. But like Revenge of the Sith, I saw that when I was 12 in theaters with my dad. I don't remember. I imagine he took me to see it because, he grew up with the original trilogy and wanted to take his son to experience, the latest installment of a franchise that he grew up watching, So like, like I have that bonding experience with one of my parents already. And then, just like seeing it, for me, I always say that's my first Star Wars movie because I was old enough to actually remember watching a movie, and it just like, I hadn't seen anything like it aside from like the Fellowship of the Ring in terms of like, this is incredible. Like, it was just like, high concept, this like crazy space epic. It had these like, I wasn't old enough to like analyze film like that, but even I, like watching Anakin's story, I knew that some heavy stuff was happening, and then I played the video game for the Xbox and I was just obsessed with that freaking game. I had some of the toys. Like that was like my favorite movie ever for a period. So like doing the retrospective was really cool because that hadn't been the latest time I rewatched it. I watched it like a number of years ago, but like it had been a while. So like watching it, it was this kind of like moment where I got to see how much I had grown in my life as like a lover of film and, how much more intelligent I'd gotten since then. Cause like I was able to watch the movie and analyze it with a adult mind. And like it hits way different from when you're a kid to when you're around the same age as Anakin, and like I never related to him until I grew up, and then I was like, no, dude, I like, like I've lost people in my life and stuff, and like if some guy that I knew was like, hey, bro, I could help you find the power to ensure that never happens again, I'd be like, what do I have to do? How many people do I have to slaughter? I'll do whatever. You want me to rob a bank, break into the White House? All bets are off. Screw it. So, like, that was a really full circle moment.
Our Star Wars retrospectives they've been so fun to do. We're officially done with them. We did 1 through 9. Watching them, I have a separate playlist for just this Star Wars retrospective, so you can watch from 1 to 9 in order. And let me tell you, you're gonna understand Star Wars on a different level watching these things back to back. I'll give you some statistics right here. Just our prequel trilogy alone is 8 hours and 41 minutes. Our original trilogy is 4 hours and 6 minutes long. And I don't have that specific stat for the sequel trilogy because I'm actually working on it right now because we just finished it. But anyways, we put a lot of time into it. So there's that. All right, Tony, I got to shout out 2 right here. I'll talk about one. You can talk about the other because what I'm about to talk about are our interview episodes we've done. Kind of done 2 of them specifically. I'll start with mine because I did mine first. Episode 29, A Galaxy of Opportunity, Star Wars, Starfield's Fallout, and Media Bias with Jake James Lugo.
That was a great episode.
That episode was fantastic. I can't wait to have him back on. I'm probably going to have him back on again during Hispanic Heritage Month. So hopefully soon he'll be back on. That was in, I believe, September. I'm trying to look for when the published date was. Yep, September 10th. So I got to get him back on for that because that's why he came on, and we really talk about I interview him and we talk about his journey as a writer for the games industry and all of that. Is so insightful and educational on so many different levels.
The thing that I noticed when I listened to that one was like, like this might be shocking to believe, but me and Caleb are just kind of regular peons. Like we're not, like super anything. Educated in certain things. We're not really that professional of guys, whatever, but like he works in the industry and stuff and writes articles and whatnot. So like I was immediately like struck by like how like well spoken he was and like how like you would ask him a question and then his answer would be like 3 minutes long, but like that never with some people, like they can like, drone on and on about certain things and like sound kind of pretentious, like me, for example. But like listening to him, I was like, I could listen to him just like read an audiobook, of like a encyclopedia of stuff. Like, like he was just really fun to listen to. And, he gave like thorough answers that were like well articulated and stuff. But he also is still like not too professional that he forgot how to be a fan.
Oh, he's such a fan.
Yeah. I think that's the key. Like some people, they get to a certain level and then it's like, oh, it's just a job and, I'm above you all. But like he agreed to be on a podcast that's like not even big. And it's like he probably has been on larger podcasts. He could have said no, but for some reason he wanted to, speak to you about Star Wars and stuff. So like,
I give him a lot of credit for that. He is a true fan. Me and him went back and forth pretty well, and I'll let you in on a little bit of inside stuff here. He was actually mad at me after the episode a little bit because I didn't go into the thing that he was really doing. Like at the time, he was collecting and playing through every Star Wars video game, and I didn't really go into it at all. And the only reason I didn't was because we went for 2 hours, and I was like, I don't want to take up all of his time. It was more so wanting to talk about him and his industry expertise, and I didn't go into his like independent endeavor, which was collecting and playing all of, like every Star Wars video game, which he was in the middle of doing. So I kind of like I want to have him back on because I want to talk to him just about more stuff. But now he's officially finished collecting and playing through every Star Wars game. So I think now would be a better time to have him back on and go through all of them because he's finished with it. So hopefully he comes back on. So we'll see. And then the other end of the spectrum was having an actual game developer on who you interviewed. So
yeah, so in in August or no, in July.
It was September.
No, I'm setting the stage though.
Gotcha.
Because
I believe it was.
I like to tell story. Yeah, the interview was in September, but so it was with. I'll like kind of work backwards. So it was with Stefan Gagny of Fiction Factory Games, which is essentially just him. It was funny. Like before we started recording, I like said. I forget, like, I might have asked him a question about, like, should I tag Fiction Factory Games when I upload it? And then he's like, just so you know, Fiction Factory Games is literally just me, basically. And I was like, oh, okay. But, yeah, so he is one of the writers of the Arcade Spirits visual novels that's made up of Arcade Spirits and Arcade Spirits The New Challengers. I played these in summer of 2022. I had lost my brother, and like I was looking for visual novels to play on Switch, and then I like found out about these. Like you play as somebody who works in an arcade, and like you meet people who you have the option to romance and stuff. And I was like, well, I love arcade, so I'll check it out, And then I started playing it one night, just to check it out. It was after work when I was working on second shift. And then I didn't have any expectations. And then like it came time for me to go to sleep, and I was like, I want to keep playing. Damn it. I love this. So, those games just really mean a lot to me because of the, time I played them. And they actually taught me some pretty valuable life lessons, which is what I love about art. Those are my favorite pieces of art, when like the ones that like really stick with you, and they they stay in your really thoughts and feelings, and you learn something from them. So I got to talk to him. I like sent him a message on Twitter, and I was like, hey, it'd be cool to have you on a podcast because we want to talk to indie video game devs, which that was the only one. So unfortunately that didn't happen really. But I was like, oh, if you're interested, send me an email. And then I was at work and I got an email, and then I saw that it was from him, and I was like, he actually responded? Oh God. And then, I was like really nervous. I was like, I don't want to, like not have a good flow and stuff like that, but we just like, chatted about stuff, and he was really nice, and I kind of regret, it's like kind of what you were saying about like not wanting to extend the episode and take up more of their time, because like we got to talking a little bit about the Telltale Batman games, and then I
talk about that forever.
I had to like kind of redirect it because I didn't just want to go on a tangent, but like I wish I would have just kept talking about him. But like I was just a really cool experience that I've tried to get other people on, like YouTubers and stuff, but like it's that thing of like I'm not really a aggressive person, so like if like someone says they'll do it, and then I'm like, okay, just let me know when you're free, and then time passes and they don't because they have their own lives. It's like, well, I don't want to bother them, so I guess I'll just leave them alone. You know what I mean? And it's like, it is what it is. But like I would love to have other people on. I'm like always on the lookout for like people who I think I'd have a chance of talking to, but at the same time I don't want to like sell myself short, because I got to talk to the indie video game writer and developer. So I mean, anything can happen. So I'm excited for any possibilities of that sort?
We could go on and on about every episode, but those are some of the seminal ones. I want to shout out one more. So, Tony, pick one more while I talk about this one. It's kind of crazy because what we do is a Star Wars podcast, and there is literally a Star Wars podcast day. So it was fun participating in that. It was like over like a few hundred, I think, other podcasters that just put out episodes labeled Star Wars Podcast Day. So it was fun because that whole week you could spend listening to all kinds of different Star Wars podcast episodes, different takes from all these different people. It was like a big event. So it wasn't like May the 4th. It was in like February or something. But our episode, it was episode 40, Beyond the Horizons, Faraway Galaxies, Star Wars Podcast Day. We basically just talked about our Star Wars hot takes, and it was just a fun, chill episode that went very well, and it was just a cool thing to participate in, being that's what we do. We like to talk about Star Wars, so that was a fun seminal episode that kind of fit with our theme. So yeah, do you have your last seminal episode of ours? It's just fun looking back, man.
I was gonna pick the most recent episode we did for Star Wars Podcast Day, because like we pitched some of our dream Star Wars projects, and that's always just a fun thing for me to do, because like I have a writer's mind. Like I'm always thinking about like ideas for like shows, movies, plays, video games, like all the time.
Yeah.
So that was just like like a fun chill episode. Like it didn't require that much like research. Actually no, yeah. I just thought of one. Our dream video games.
Ooh, that's a throwback.
I don't remember which episode number that was, but that was
our dream games that need to be made, episode 31.
Yeah, that was really fun because like I got to just like just totally run wild. I got to pitch. I don't I know I pitched Old Man Mario RPG, power wash simulator type thing that turns into like Grand Theft Auto. Like I have like really weird ideas. Like a lot of them, I kind of feel like a hack a little bit, because it's like, what if it's insert genre piece thing here, but it turns into insert other genre piece here? Like that's just my favorite. Like I like when one thing starts out as something else. I mean, as something, and then it turns into something else. And I think I don't know if I pitched as a Spider-Man game where you actually make choices, because we haven't had that since Web of Shadows. Just like really fun stuff like that. Like those are, as much as I love the episodes where we're like analyzing things or like like pleading our case for like our favorite this and that. Like it's always just really fun for me when I get to just release some of my pent up ideas and just say, here's a bunch of my crazy ideas. And I'd like to kind of make that an annual thing or something. I don't know like if that would get redundant, but I feel like that'd be really fun because I got no shortage of them. Absolutely none.
No, I don't think so. And that moves perfectly into what I kind of wanted to talk about going forward is after episode 50, I want to do a different format, because we're kind of just going with random videos, whatever we think of, we just kind of put out. But I kind of would like to do something where maybe each month we do one retrospective, one gaming video, and then one solo episode each. So like maybe that's something you could do in like a 20 to 30 minute episode where you get it out, or we could do it where we go back and forth and just talk about it. So we're going to definitely have a kind of like a format where we do stuff like that, because we like to talk about movies and games and just random stuff. I mean, I see podcasts out there that they're on episode 300, but their 300th episode is the same exact episode as their first episode, because each episode they follow the same format, and it's like, it's good, but I said a few episodes ago, that's definitely not how we flow. We don't, we like to just be creative and have random topics. Sometimes we want to review something. Sometimes we want to throw out some, hey, this is my dream game that I've been thinking of. Let's talk about it. Or, hey, let's rank these video games. All right. Or, hey, let's talk about Kojima and what's going on with it. So it's or, hey, let's interview somebody. It's like, we like to do stuff like that. And I think it's fun because if you look through the channel, so many, there's so much variety in it. I love it. So yeah, Tony, that's what it's like to be a podcaster, a part of a podcast. I think it's interesting doing a video like this too, because maybe there's somebody that wants to podcast, or there's somebody that tried podcasting and just didn't work out for them, and they're trying to do it in a way that doesn't suit them. And I think we found a way that kind of suits us, because I'm having a lot of fun with it still, and we've been going for a long time now. Kind of.
Yeah.
We officially have 101 videos on our YouTube channel.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy. I just saw that. So another fun fact for you. Yeah. This has been a fun little short episode. So I don't want to go too much longer, Tony, but is there anything you've been dying to get off your chest?
Anything I've been dying to get off my chest?
This is it. Because next episode, I need you dialed in next episode. You know what it is. I need you dialed in. So get
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a great game, but it keeps blowing my mind by how much they managed to pad out certain things. I'm going to be playing this for the next 8 months.
Okay. I'm on the opposite
thing I wanted to vent about.
Because I want to vent too. I've been playing. So it was funny. I was at work and my friend was like, "Hey, I almost bought a PS5." He's like, "I'm probably going to, but I just didn't yet." I'm like, "Hey, you know what I'm using my PS5 for? I'm literally playing a PSP game from 2009 on a 55-inch OLED right now."
And not like, there's that meme like, "Oh, the PS5 has no games." I mean, that's PSP not entirely library. True, but also like it depends what kind of stuff you like. Like if you like
what you're into, yeah.
If you like hack and slash games about samurais, congratulations, because you get to play 27 more of them. So fantastic. There you go.
I've always been a huge fan of exclusives. Like, I love Xbox exclusives. That's why I'm upset with them, because they're not making many of them now.
Yeah.
I love Nintendo exclusives, obviously. I love PlayStation exclusives. So what I play on PlayStation are PlayStation exclusives. What I play on Xbox are Xbox exclusives. Sometimes I'll dip into third party here and there, but right now I'm playing Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier. I know it's the worst one, but I'm starting to really enjoy this game. I think you would love it, actually, because there are some things in it that
I'm gonna play that series fun. At some point. I've gotten pretty good at slowly working through my backlog, and not buying games. It took long enough, but I'm playing. While we're talking about what we're playing, screw it. I managed to get a copy of Silent Hill 3 that's not over $100.
Let me look that up. That's kind of
which
crazy.
Is rare, because those games are some of them are running a fortune, and Konami, being a terrible company, doesn't want to make them more accessible. I don't know why. Instead, they're remaking Silent Hill 2 because that's what they need to do. I'm gonna buy it, but still. Dude, Silent Hill 3. Oh my god, it's chilling. It looks the freaking story's actually emotionally invested. I mean, the second one's story was too, but it's just you're playing as this teenage girl who's just scared and vulnerable, and she has no idea what's going on. Instant sympathy from me. And then I'm actually happy to report that I've gotten smarter in games, because I haven't had to look up that many things. And when I played the second one not super long ago, I had to look up quite a bit. So
yeah,
I'm becoming a survival horror fan. It's finally happened. It's a great place to be. So
nice. I'm definitely I'm getting into it. I just beat Resident Evil 5, and I'm about to start Resident Evil 6, and I'm in the middle of playing Resident Evil 3 Remake. So I'm jumping into it. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about it. So One time we'll
6
do
is
it.
regarded as the worst game in the series, so I'm
That's what
excited.
I hear,
to
but
get
it sounds
I
like
played
from
a fair
everything
bit
I've
of it.
heard, it sounds amazing.
It's fun, but if you play it for too long of a session, it just kind of gets tedious. But I mean, I want to try playing it again and just play it gradually because it is a fun game. Like it's like the Avengers of Resident Evil, basically.
That's what sounds cool because I don't know, that sounds cool to me. But I'm a huge like I love corny and campy stuff. I'm not like, oh, this needs to be like super clean and polished. I'm like, nah, give me something campy and hilarious and fun. I'm all about it. All right, with that, Tony, thanks for coming on. We're gonna make the internet really mad right now before we leave because what we're gonna do is we're gonna give our Star Wars rankings from best movie to worst movie before we go. All right, and I need you to do it quick because I'm gonna clip it.
Quick. Okay, off the top of my head, from worst to best, Rise of Skywalker. I don't blame anybody involved except the suits over at Disney. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. They should have pushed this movie back, but you got to protect your bottom line, you greedy bastards. After that, I'd say The Phantom Menace. It's not bad. I enjoy it. It's whatever, okay? It's fine. It has some fine parts. I like some of the performances. It has some nice moments. Lightsaber fight's good. What do you want from me? Up next, I'd say is Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones is a pretty good movie. Pretty good all around. The Obi-Wan stuff is the best part, but everything else is fun. I like it. I've learned to not hate it. What do you want from me? Leave me alone. Up next, I would say is Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi is... I don't like a lot of it, but the stuff with Luke and Vader is really good. The space battle is fine. They fight a Death Star again, but it's bigger. Cool. Emperor Palpatine's great as always. Up next is The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens is pretty good. Pretty good movie. Pretty good. It sets up a whole bunch of plot points that lead to nowhere. I don't need to start that whole thing again. I like the performances. It's my favorite trilogy, even though it's the worst one. The first Star Wars movie where I truly cared about the characters and felt like I related to them. Up next is The Last Jedi. I like The Last Jedi a lot, but it also has some stuff that makes me scratch my head. Rian Johnson should have been given a spin-off movie because he kind of muddled up the timeline of what they were doing. But, I mean... whatever. It still has some really cool ideas.
You're putting Revenge of the Sith over The Last Jedi.
I forgot about Revenge of the Sith, but yeah. Up next is A New Hope. A New Hope is awesome. A New Hope is solid. Great. A New Hope is one of the best movies ever made. I don't know what more to say. What do you want from me? Up next is Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back is awesome. Empire Strikes Back is great, iconic. The lighting is sexy. The freaking work on Yoda, I don't know how they did it. The lightsaber fights are great. The acting is actually good. And this is the only original trilogy movie I can really kind of say that about. And then I guess by default, my favorite Star Wars movie off the top of my head is Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith freaking rules. It's awesome. It's great. It's like a Shakespearean epic. It's a tragedy, but it also has some fun moments. You feel for Anakin and you wish that he wasn't such a damn emotionally illiterate moron because things could have gone differently. But if you know where it's leading to, he kind of redeems himself and then he finds peace with the Force. So it's like poetry that they rhyme. So yeah.
I didn't know that Revenge of the Sith was your favorite. Is it?
I don't know if it is, but just doing this off the top of my head, it happened to become my favorite.
Okay, I have my tier list here, so I'm cheating. But in 60 seconds, here's my... So we just did the Star Wars retrospective 1 through 9. So here is my summary of what the 50 hours we did of researching these movies. Here's my summary of it. Ready? Here we go. Rise of Skywalker is really bad. It's garbage. The Last Jedi is it's all right, I guess. Force Awakens is also all right, I guess. All right, it's pretty good, I guess. Whatever. Empire's the worst of the original 6. I'll always stand by that. I don't care what anyone says. Phantom Menace is by far better than Empire. Attack of the Clones is by far better than Empire. Return of the Jedi is one of the best movies ever made. It's only surpassed by Episode 4, A New Hope. A New Hope is perfect, except for when it comes to Revenge of the Sith, which is the best movie ever made. There we go. That's what I've learned doing all these movies in retrospect.
I already roasted you for saying Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones are better than Empire, so I don't have to do it again.
I did it very thoroughly. All right, that's what 35. That's like 40 years of Star Wars wrapped up in 60 seconds. Thanks, George. Thanks, Disney. So, all right, and with that, thanks for coming out, Tony. It was fun. We're out of here. See you guys.
See ya.
Oh.